Okay, so welcome to the pinnacle of performance. All of the people gathering around to master, or actually just learn about and dive deep into the one thing that turns impossible into possible. And those are habits and routines. Today, me and Seb are gonna go into a deep dive into everything there is to know about them because I think that I can speak for both of us when I say that habits and routines are the things that makes people successful. So, Seb,
Of course. Last podcast we were vision and goals, right? We were over vision and goals. But what makes visions and goals possible is habits and routines. It kind of flows into each other. So being able to reach something big is the cornerstone. Well, the cornerstone of getting a goal is habits. And habits is basically just a thing or an action done each and every single day, which will lead you closer to some kind of goal or some kind of big end
yeah,
destination. And
absolutely.
goals and habits are, well, habits and routines are critical. They're cornerstone for any kind of success because you've heard it everywhere. You've heard it everywhere. Consistency is king. Consistency is compounding. And
Yeah,
habits and routines make you able to get this consistency in. It can be, I will go and do 50 push-ups each morning. Being able to do it for 7 times a week is much better than doing it 3 times a week, of course. But that consistency and that habit of doing it every single day is critical, cornerstone.
yeah, absolutely. And today we're gonna cover the compounding effect. We're gonna cover the consistency. We're gonna cover all of those things. And yeah, basically, what habits are just processes which are a stimulus that generates the impulse to act. Um, Usually, I mean, not usually, but they are driven by automatic processes and they do
Yes.
not require conscious or intentional control. That is why they are basically, a double-edged knife or a double-edged sword because they can either be used for your empowerment or for your destruction. Because again, to repeat the sentence, they're processes and they do not require conscious or intentional control. When you are programming them into your subconscious mind, of course they require intention. And but again, to make this exactly the same example as last time, you have certain habits that are so automatic that you don't even consider them habits, but you consider them a part of your nature, like brushing teeth every morning. And that's basically what you're trying to achieve with all of your habits, because your habits basically create your personality. So yeah, let's go into it. And as per usual, for the beginning, to open it up, let's discuss the importance of habits. And
Yes.
you can start. Go off, Seb.
Yes. So it was exactly what I wanted to start out with. I want to drill into the people listening here today, just the power and importance of habits. I'm not sure, and I'm sure not every one of you has taken some kind of nicotine or even just caffeine, but the effect and habit that nicotine and caffeine will create in your body is astonishing. Okay, so nicotine or caffeine may be cigarettes, coffee, nicotine pouches, nicotine patches, nicotine gum. It doesn't matter. You form a habit of taking it at certain times. Okay, so it may be in a bath or right after a bath because you like the warm feeling and you want nicotine after. It might be just before you eat or just after you eat. It might be just before bed or just after waking up. It might be just after a learning session or anything of the sort. And your body will make a system, it will make a pattern. The human brain is a pattern making machine, and it will recognize every single thing that you put in it, right? So over a long period of time, it will say and it will crave it. After a meal, if you have done it after a meal for a long time, it will literally begin to feel a craving towards nicotine because it's a habit, it's a routine. And your body forms this. So it's innate, it's a human innate um, capability, etc. And that's the importance of it. It is in every single human, and you do it on a daily basis with everything. And once you really understand the importance, and once you really understand the fact that habits is everything that you do, then you can begin to shift it and begin to shift it in your favor after you understand the importance.
Yeah. And the one difference between nicotine and, let's say, weed, right, uh, is that when it comes to cigarettes and things of that nature, they have a chemical dependency. So once you start, it's extremely difficult to stop. And you have a lot of people, and let me be honest, I am one of them, that claim that weed isn't addictive. And let me tell you, it isn't. It isn't addictive chemically, but it is addictive psychologically. And it's just what Sabi said. So when it comes to weed, you don't get addicted to the substance itself, but you get addicted to the habit, or rather, you smoking weed becomes a habit. Just like Sabi said, prior to a meal because the meal tastes better, prior to going to bed because you can fall asleep faster. It doesn't really matter. The whole point is addiction is real, even if it's not chemical, even if it's not, I don't know what, it is because it becomes a habit and then you have to get rid of it. But yeah, just like Sabi said, habits are the blueprint of excellence. So they're the unconscious patterns that dictate our daily actions. And again, either they can work in favor for us or they can work against us. And it's on us to, number one, recognize that everything we do, literally everything we do, is a habit. So uh, humans are a animal which its nature is habits, and I hope that makes sense. But again, it's not just about big action. If you want to be an elite performer, if you want to be an anomaly, the power actually comes from the accumulation of the small consistent habits. And another thing, which Sabi you can talk about, is the automation. So how do we actually instill habits into ourselves?
Yes, a huge point you made is habits is like the cornerstone, is the blueprint of everything because everything is habits, also just like I said. So how to automate habits is you got to first be aware of what habits you have right now and what habits is bad for you and good for you. Okay, so take a piece of paper in the evening when you do your reflection or any other stuff, jot down all of the things which is bad and good. You can be aware of, okay, I eat certain things that I shouldn't do because they activate certain stuff in me, or I tend to go on different platforms because it's just a habit. I tend to pick up my phone just when I'm eating because that's just a habit. I maybe even tend to um, whatever, whatever it may be. I think the first step is to be aware of what habits you have right now because they are automatic. Like I said, the automation of it. You have to firstly be aware of them before you can destroy them, and then you have to figure out a plan to destroy them. So it may be, okay, tomorrow I'm going to be consciously aware and intentional that when I'm going to eat, I am not going to look at I'm not going to look at my phone the first 5 minutes, and then I can take it afterwards. And then tomorrow again, it's going to be the first 6 minutes, and then 7 minutes, and then 8 minutes. And then after a week, 2 weeks, it's going to be gone, right?
Yeah.
And that's breaking it. And then automating it is slowly incorporating habits into your daily life. Let's say you want to start running. Start running. So let's say that 4 days a week, 4 days a week, you want to run XYZ amount of kilometers. Start one day with just doing it at a specific time, which you know, which you intentionally set, and then run for, let's say, half a kilometer. It's your first time. The same exact time next week, do the same exact run, but just do it like 600 meters or whatever. Same exact time the next week again, and then just up the pace and up the speed, etc. You get the point. But it's doing the same things, the same time, being intentional about it, and then you can start to incorporate these automatic habits into your life, which is absolutely awesome.
Yeah, and the reason why habits are so powerful, it is because the purpose or the thing that habits do is they automate choices, right? So the main idea behind habits is to reduce decision fatigue. And the way this works is, right, again, stupid example, but very true. If you would have to decide for every single thing whether you're gonna do it or not, or what, or how you're gonna do it, then you would be, exhausting your brain power in a matter of minutes. We are only capable of making a few decisions a day. Like that's very major point, right? We are not able
Yes.
to make like a huge amount of decisions every single day. And that's why habits actually reduce the decision fatigue and conserve mental energy for critical thinking and creativity. So when you think that you're not choosing one or the other thing, you are choosing it, but you're choosing it subconsciously, right?
Mhm.
So again, the point is to free the mind of the decision fatigue so that it can focus on innovation and problem solving.
Yes. And a good point you made here is decision fatigue. You can almost think of it like brain points. You have a set brain points every single day, and these brain points can fluctuate by how good quality sleep you get and by how good quality food you eat and water and sunlight and etc. But you have a set point of brain points, and the more decisions you take and the bigger they are and the more time consuming they are and more you think consuming they are, the more brain points it takes. And you can take these brain points and to be optimal in your productivity and in your daily life, you need to use the brain points most effectively. So it needs to be on the biggest tasks, on the most high ROI tasks, on the best activities which yields you the most. Going back to habits, it's conscious, it's unconscious, right? Because if you had to make all of these decisions yourself, you would literally have no energy, no motivation, none of that, right? It would take so much time, energy, and attention because there are so many micro decisions you make every day. It can be something as simple as when you wake up, do you take your shirt or your trousers on first? It's such micro decisions. And one of the biggest decisions you make is what you eat. And many people waste so much of their brain points with what they eat. A big benefit or a big like tip I can give you is literally just eat the same thing every day, something very, very high quality, excellent that fills you up and fills your brain so you don't have to think about it. But take me through just where you see people go wrong about habits. Just like the big picture so we can get just the big periphery of it.
Mhm. So you're gonna ask that question again, but before before you do that, for those people who like to cook like me, that's not the way to do it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but but yeah, I really like to enjoy my food.
Yeah.
I'm very big on cooking, and no, the thing that you said would never work for me. Um, but I do understand the value of it,
Mhm.
but I approach it in a different way. So I have created my own cookbook. So there are all the meals for all the so you like most people already know by now, or the ones that listen to previous podcasts, that I fast 22 hours a day, and then I only eat 1.5 meal every single day. So I basically only eat one meal, 1.5. But again, that's the discussion for fasting and going off topic. The point is, for all people who like cooking, I recommend you do or you create your own cookbook, and then you're just choosing which meal you can take, right? And if you create your own cookbook, all the meals are more or less equally desirable by you, right? So if you're making something from chicken and you're making something from ground beef and then you're having a T-bone steak, it doesn't really matter. All the dishes that you like to cook are in there. So just choose one. It doesn't matter. Maybe you choose it by what you have in the fridge. Again, I like to cook. I would never eat the same thing every day. um, but yeah, what was the question again that you asked me? Please
Yeah,
repeat.
it's funny because I also like to cook, but I try to preserve it for my work, right? So it's finding what works for you, right? But what I want to ask you was, where is the biggest thing? Where do you see people go extremely wrong? Like, what is the big thing that is holding people back, and what is the big thing that people need to understand before even getting into all of these small habits and routines?
Mm, well, one of the things I will say is, and this is a very controversial opinion, is how you should start, right? So
Hmm.
there are and again, this is why you and I preach the formula, and you and I try to uh, always point out that this is a personalized journey, and what works for you does not work for me, or not necessarily, right? And the reason why I'm trying to point this out is because there is such like battle online in the personal development community on how you should approach change, right? And a lot of people, like myself, we preach that, or again, I don't preach that, it's just that what works for me. And that is that when you decide that you want to change something, like for instance, I think, did you read Atomic Habits, Seb?
Oh yeah, Atomic Habits is a book I read long ago.
But doesn't Atomic Habits preach that you should make like small changes over long
Yes.
period of time? Yeah, so this is something that I did not resonate with. That's why I stopped reading well, I didn't stop reading the book. I still read the book for the things that, would work for me, but I can't get behind the idea of, changing small, yeah, like doing small steps over a longer period of time. For me, what works is to do a drastic, like overnight change and then just commit to that. So then you have the paradox because some people overcommit and then they lack focus because they're overwhelmed. But again, I really think that if you truly design everything, right, like an artist, and you design your art, which is life, you can do an overnight shift as long as you are fed up with the way that you're living up to this point and you need the change. It's about the desire, it's about those things. And again, on the other hand, a lot of people work in a way where yes, they do need small changes over longer period of time, but again, that is not for me. So yeah, then the second thing I really think most people mess up is inconsistency. Um, Inconsistency again is something that we're going to talk about, and how it affects the compound effect, and or like not sticking to a routine or a habit that you want to instill inside of your personality, not sticking to it for long enough, uh, then what will happen is you will hinder all of your progress and prevent the formation of the strong beneficial habits or the foundation. Um, Again, inconsistency is one of the biggest things that I see people messing up. But what do you think? What's the biggest mess up from the people?
Yes. I think it's almost exactly what you think. I think it's people don't personalize it to their own journey and to their own needs, and I think they aren't consistent, right? So it will be better for you to do 5 hours of work each day over like a long period than you doing 7, 8 hours of work for like a month and then burn out, right? That's just how it is. Consistency is king in this game. But I want to dive into this like kind of philosophy that you said. Your life, your needs, your specific needs is your art. Your life is your art, and you need to personalize it. You need to describe it and write it, like it is to you. You need
I can
to
I can
design it to your
elaborate on
life.
that. Yeah, so just to put it simply, you can imagine yourself that your conscious mind, and I mean fortunately and unfortunately, most like most of these things are a double-edged sword. um so when I say fortunately, also look at it as unfortunately, but going off topic again. um Imagine yourself, your conscious mind, as being the artist, and your body and your physical environment is the canvas which you are going to paint. And you can make decisions on what do you want to paint, what do you want to portray. Do you want to, show the people the beauty of your health and wellness, and how amazing your body is, and how, you can move, you can do flips, you can ride bikes, you can ski, you can do that. So in that sense, and then what your mental is capable of producing, so businesses, books, art. But that's why I personally preach spirituality and philosophy for entrepreneurs. It's and of course all high performance people, elite performers. It is because of that exact reason. Your conscious mind and like your mind in general is the thing that paints the picture in the physical world. And that's how you can imagine, realize or crystallizing unseen into the scene, because in your imagination you can imagine anything. The only question is, are you going to crystallize it into the physical? So yeah, that's sort of the thing.
Yes, I want to give just a good look and kind of drill the importance in of habits and routines to the audience here. What is the difference between a millionaire and a person who is broke? It is the things they do on a daily basis which get them to the point, right? So let me give you an example. What is the difference between the person who is ripped, jacked, who looks extremely good, and just gets more girls and whatever than the dude who has a bad butt? It is the consistency of the habits and routines they do. The person who has a good body is ripped. He goes to the gym for 5, 6 times a week, and he eats right, and he sleeps right, and he drinks good quality water, and he eats clean, and he eats good quality food. He tracks his sleep, whatnot. The guy who doesn't do that, he doesn't get the same results. Is pretty much self-explanatory. It's the habits and routines you do which will take you to the goal which you want. So tell me, what do you think about this? Like, what is the difference between well, it's the habits and routines, of course. But what is the how can people be so different and yet they can still be the same? Like is that just everything, habits and routines?
Well, the most beautiful thing I ever heard when it comes to this specific thing is that all people are self-made. So rich and poor, fat and, and I'm not when you said when you said that what's the difference between a jacked person and a person with a dead body, I instantly want to drop in and be like, are you body shaming? It's just this current culture is absolutely destroyed.
Oh,
Our
is that?
society is fucked.
Yeah.
But yeah, my point is, so all people are self-made, but only the successful admit it. That's the most beautiful thing I ever heard because it's true. It doesn't matter. Well, it is partially true because then we get back to the problem of subconscious and unconscious mind and who programs it. And if you were a victim of society and you never gained awareness, then you run into a problem where um, what happens is you think that you're making conscious choices, but again, like I said in the introduction, habits are not conscious. And what happens is what feels as a conscious choice could be a result or the effect of a very, very deeply ingrained habit. So the thing that I think that most successful people have, unless they were programmed in the correct way from the beginning, is the self-awareness and conscious ability to consciously choose and again be very 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 self-aware. So for everything they do they ask if that's something that truly expresses their authentic selves, and it doesn't matter what it is. Like you said, it can be putting on a shirt and looking at the shirt and saying, is that my true self-expression? And for people who don't understand the example, it's simple. Like when you're buying Calvin Klein or Hugo Boss or I don't know what those brands are, when you're buying those sort of crap, is that truly what you want to express, right? Because I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it is, but for me, it isn't. Not once in my life did I want to wear a Calvin Klein or Hugo Boss or whatever, because that's not who I am. And again, we come all the way back to knowing who you are. And if you don't know who you are, then how can you make a conscious, self aware choice? So back to you, Seb.
Yes. Habits, routines forms your life. It's as simple as that. The person who has very good quality sleep simply does other habits than the person who has bad quality sleep. I think we've gone into this topic enough of why it's so important. So tell me just what you think and how you go about like the formation of new habits. Like how do you see and realize and be how are you aware of what you want to take into your life and then how do you start to implement it?
Yeah. So it all starts with the goal. If you don't know what you want, then you cannot form habits. And the reason for that is because habits drive you to do certain actions, and those actions yield certain results. It's the formula. The result is the goal, and habits make that possible. Again, to make a vivid example, if you want to become a successful, I don't know, let's just I'm just gonna make an example of myself. If I want to be a successful day trader, I have to spend every day in front of the charts. I shouldn't consume much knowledge from other traders. Well, from the social media and things like that. Like, of course, you need to read certain books, and there are certain people that are actually helping. But again, my point is there is a formula, and there are habits that will yield the results of me becoming a or being a profitable trader. And it's the same for everything. It doesn't matter what it is. And if you choose a goal of being shredded and healthy, then you need to look at which habits will yield that result. So, yeah, how do I go about it? It's just as I explained, design I design the image, the painting in my own head. And once I have the painting of what I want to bring to fruition, I put it on the paper, I solidify it. I solidify it in a written form first, and then I start painting. And again, for me, it's always been a either all or nothing, either 110% or no, or 0%, because either I'm ready to change or I'm not. I don't like to do small habits. I don't like to do incremental changes because incremental changes are for people who are not yet ready to change. For people who are ready to pour their essence, pour their identity into the expression they desire. There is no incremental. Either you are or you aren't. People, like, again, and this is why I preach, the all or nothing approach. It's because if you need incremental changes, then that means you are not ready to change. It's as simple as that. So please understand, all my fellow anomalies, all the elite performers, either you're ready or wait. Don't force, empower, right? Force versus power. So, again, going over it, I am a painter and I want to first portray the image that I want crystallized in the physical in my imagination. Once it is in my imagination, I bring it onto paper so that I don't lose track, so that I have the destination always in sight. Once it is on paper, I curate a plan. Once the plan is done, I go and I do it and I don't deviate and I do not care what anyone says about how I'm living my life, how I'm approaching it. I do, period.
That's good. I want to dig into more of the all or nothing mindset because I have more or less the same. I need to go all in on something. Like I'm eating extremely clean. It's only filtered water. No tap water, no fluoride, no fasting 22 hours a day, etc., etc. I'm much myself of this all or nothing mindset, but I also think that this ties into the small things because how you do everything, or sorry, how you do anything is how you do everything. And I think it's in those small moments, those micro habits that forms your big habits. I think it's how you do. I think it's how you wash your hands. Is how well you can formulate your words. I think it's how well you prepare your food. It's how well you can prepare a strategic plan that's concise and thorough to your business. I think it all hangs together and it's good. Self awareness, being aware what you want to change and being aware how to change it is the pinnacle of setting new habits and routines, right? So just tell me, just drill it in the importance of self awareness because so many people are unaware that they are doing something wrong, that they are doing something bad for themselves. They have no idea that what they're doing is bad. So tell me how to develop this self awareness that we preach so much.
Well, um, I'm very much sorry, but I have not yet figured out how to develop self-awareness because, oh, Jesus, I try to help so many people that aren't self-aware, but ignorance and ego and so many things. It's when someone is driven purely from the unconscious, then it's very hard for you to spark awareness in them. I know it's possible. I know that people know how to do it, but I have not yet figured out that part, how to make people self-aware. I don't like I have a lot of theories, like I'm not empty on that question, but I really don't want to voice my opinion on things I'm not certain in, and it's always going to be like that. If I'm not certain in something, if I only have an opinion and no knowledge or no wisdom, or rather no wisdom, I don't want to talk about it because I may regret what I said. And also, if you can hear a little bit of construction going on outside, my neighbor's house is being renovated, so I do apologize for that. But as you have said, creating uh, a predictable success framework is the most valuable thing with habits and routines, right? So successful habits create reliable or real can pronounce it reliable framework for success, and they are repeatable, right? So they are something that you can do over and over. It's I think that we already discussed this when we were discussing goals and visions, is that winning and being successful is not a state, but it's a progressive action, right? So you can be successful today, but you can be a complete loser tomorrow. And no money, no achievement will tell you whether you're successful or not, because of the pure fact that success is a lifestyle. Winning is a lifestyle. And when it comes to routines, they reduce the variables and uncertainties, creating a controlled environment for peak performance. That is why I think that you and I were looking forward for this episode for the longest, because habits and routines is the foundation. It is the bedrock. It is the only thing that you really need to master prior to going into anything else. And I, again, fortunately, unfortunately, I think that most people that are listening to us are self-aware. I hope that I'm not gonna regret saying that, but if you found us, if you resonate with the way of the anomaly and all of those things, I believe that you have enough self-awareness for you to cultivate it. Because when it comes to self-awareness, it's not like either you have it or you don't. There are levels to it, and there's a lot of progress you can make. Like, you can be only aware about, I don't know, or the other word people use is self-conscious about your body, your, I don't know, the fact that you're still drinking. It doesn't matter what it is. The point is, I don't really know how to spark self awareness, but I do know how to cultivate it and how to nurture it so that you become more and more self aware. Because expanding consciousness, expanding self awareness, expanding uh, the whole I, once you know yourself, is so easy. It's so easy. And maybe, well, you see, maybe just maybe, the way for you to become self-aware is to find find out who you are.
Yes. There's three huge topics I want to deep dive in here. I appreciate you for not going like into deep topics which you don't truly understand and which you haven't experienced yet. I don't like to either, but I think self-awareness comes from deep meditation and deep reflection. I think self-awareness comes from opening up your mind and getting quiet and not having any people and having solitude, to say it effectively, and studying yourself, studying your own mind. I think that's where self-awareness comes. I think that's where you can cultivate it. Another two things is
Yeah.
success.
Sorry to interrupt, but again, I do agree that that's how you cultivate it, but I'm not certain that that is the starting point, right? I assume that the starting point of self-awareness is gonna be a singular event which makes you self-aware or self-conscious. Again, I think that it's gonna be very different from person to person, but if you don't have the initial spark where you actually know what self-awareness is, right? Because I can make an analogy where people who are completely not aware, who are completely asleep, they see the world in shades of gray. They still see the difference, right? But it's shades of gray. And once you gain the spark, once the flame ignites, all of a sudden you realize that that you are colorblind, and those shades of gray are in reality colors which you could not differentiate because you couldn't perceive them. So the true question is, what ignites the flame? What is the spark of self awareness? And that's something I don't know. But I do agree with you that cultivating the self awareness, once you have the seed of self awareness, comes within the solitude, comes within the silence and isolation and knowing yourself, because that's how you progress. So, yeah, do proceed.
Got it. That's a good kind of angle to take it from. Second thing I wanted to go a little more into was success is a lifestyle. You see many people with a lot of money, but they are not happy. They are not flexible. They are not healthy. They don't have a good body. They don't have a good frame. And to them, they have a portion of success. They have success in one thing. They may be wealthy in the form of money and abundant in money, but they haven't like mastered the internal stuff first. And I think mastering your internal and your external first or while getting money is so important. And that's why habits can wildly change your life and make you become such a good person. Third is patience with habits. Patience, consistency, and patience and habits is almost a formula to get success. Establishing the right habits, having the discipline, consistency, being consistent about your habits, and then having patience. Talk to me about patience in habits. How important is having patience in something in habits?
So let's make an example, right? You want to become healthy and in good shape and all of those things, but if you're not patient, then you have a problem because, let's say that you're fat and you eat a salad for one day. For one day, you decide to eat healthy. What the fuck is that gonna do for you? Absolutely nothing. Yes, it's going to start the process, but if you do not repeat it over several months, what the hell do you think is gonna happen? That you're gonna get healthy because you ate a salad? That's like, I'm sorry, but that's like people who go to McDonald's and other places like that, and they and then they take a salad in there. And see, what the fuck are you thinking? Like, I'm sorry, but I really hope we attract people that find this humorous as well. But the patience is one of the foundational things, right? Patience is the thing that actually, quote unquote, yields results, because, like I said, habits and routines can only be called habits and routines if you, well, not no not routines. Routines are just, organized activities with purpose, directions, sequence, and outcomes. But habits are only called habits if they become unconscious. You cannot be doing a quote, you cannot be doing a action for a week and calling it a habit until something becomes subconscious and unconscious and ingrained in your personality. It is not a habit, period. And patience is that which yields results. So I learned patience with investing. Well, in investing and trading, that's where I obtained patience in the first place. And currently, I am learning patience with something which bothers me deeply, and that is stretching. I fucking hate stretching, but I've been stretching now for. It's true. It's
I
not
love it.
it's not fun. No, it does feel good once you have completed it, but it feels amazing. It's one of the things that I really like to complete, but I really hate doing. But I've been learning patience recently through stretching. I've been doing 40 minutes of stretching every day for the past since May of 2023. And over the first, and of course, I didn't start with 40 minutes. I started with, I think it was 20 minutes. So the way I do it is in the morning and in the evening. So I started with 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the evening. Currently, I'm at about 15 to 20 minutes in morning and half an hour in evening. So it does depend how my body feels, because sometimes I do not, I don't feel like I need as much stretching, and sometimes it feels so good to proceed stretching that I go for longer than half an hour. But on average, I average 40 minutes a day. And the reason why I'm talking about this and patience, or in regards to patience, is because for the first 3 to 6 months, I've seen no progress, like absolutely none. And even now, the progress that I've made with stretching, and of course, I do a lot of dynamic stretching and things like that, but I still can do a split. Like there's no way in hell I can do a split because I'm not, and I'm not, focused on training for it. But I think that my range of motion has improved for about 3 centimeters when it comes to most of the stretches. I did improve, but the difference is so small, so marginal that person with patience would already quit because they would be like, why the fuck am I doing this if I don't see results? But to all the people who are not getting around and doing stretching like I was for way too long, I wish I would start stretching way sooner. But the primary result that you're looking at or that you want to see is that you are number one, developing discipline and doing something that you absolutely do not want to do. And on the second hand, it is once you stretch out the muscles and once you truly start to use the range of motion that you have or that you want to obtain, that is the thing which makes you sleep better, your memory or your cognitive abilities improve, like stretching. You said something which I absolutely love and it's stuck in my mind. You said, can you say it? Can you say it again? It was how stretching, how you're as flexible as your mind or something like that. What was the fucking quote? It's so amazing.
Yeah, so a more flexible body equates to more flexible mind, and a more flexible mind equates to more money in the bank, or more ideas popping up, or etc. Like your body and mind, we know this. Body and mind goes in hand, and if you are very flexible and your muscles are good and gummy, almost gummy like, then yeah, your mind is going to be more flexible.
Yeah, and you captured the essence, but you did not say the quote because the quote was the thing that was stuck with me.
Yeah,
I think that what you said was, uh, uh,
I
I
have no
don't, I
idea.
don't yeah, it was you're only as flexible as your mind is, or you're only as flexible as your body is something. But it was so amazing. I really hope that people can grasp the value in the quote. But yeah, mind and body synchronization is the thing that happens when you're on habits, right? So habits do not only shape the mental, but they also shape the physical. So they do not only shape the mind, but they also shape the body, and vice versa, right? Physical routines enhance the mental performance, and vice versa. Um, Alignment of physical and mental habits also amplifies your overall performance. It's truly amazing what can you do once you start to understand the power of habits and routines. So I do want to ask you, how have habits and routines helped you manage stress or reduce stress, and how have they aid you in general mental health, right? Because for me, predictable routines and habits can significantly reduce stress and anxiety, right? They did it for me. And that contributes to a better mental health, a ability to focus for longer. A stable routine, like a routine itself, provides a sense of control and predictability in otherwise, chaos which you have. So the nature of our mind is to create order out of chaos. And I really think that routines and habits help you cultivate that. Well, routines in particular are truly powerful for that. So what has been your experience with that exact thing? Stress and mind.
Yes. Stress is a big. I think stress comes. The root cause of stress is just too much noise. It's just too much noise. I think stress comes from not taking the time to really sit down and just be in your own essence. I think stress comes from thinking too much, thinking too many, thinking too many dumb thoughts that you have no idea and you should not be thinking. I think stress comes from being around the wrong people. I think stress comes from eating the wrong things and doing the wrong things. Okay, so habits and routines, how this intertwines with this is the habits that shaped kind of my stress resilience and kind of my stress relievance has been longer sleep, and it has been more quality sleep. It has been stop listening to all of these random people online. I mean, first of all, one of if you still have social media platforms, then the first one is obviously to get rid of all of those. Like you have no reason to have Snapchat, you have no reason to have Instagram and TikTok and Facebook if you have no business on there, right?
Yeah. And
Um,
even if you do, you have so the
computer,
way, yeah, the way we solved it, right? The way you and I solved it is not to
yes,
have the actual platforms, but to use things like Hopper HQ and
yes,
other applications which allow you to post on all of the social medias, but not actually have them installed on your phone.
absolutely.
And
And
also, before you proceed, I'm sorry to interrupt again, but you just reminded me of another thing, which is when you asked me what is the biggest thing that I see, or the biggest mistake that I see people do. One of the most detrimental mistakes that you can do is not being adaptable and flexible when it comes to um, changing the way
yes,
that you approach habits and routines. So while consistency is the key, the ability to adapt and modify habits in response to changing circumstances is the vital thing for the continuous growth, right? So we as elite performers, we constantly refine and distill and reshape, restructure the habits to stay ahead of people. Because you like it's a 99% chance that when you do the first artwork, it's not gonna be perfect. So you have to keep on trying. And the beautiful thing about the canvas, which is the physical environment, is that it's always erasing. So you constantly need to repaint. This is the analogy I was making, right? You're the painter, and the physical, your life is the art that you're creating, is the canvas. Um, it's constantly erasing what you have drawn, what you have painted. So you constantly need to um, go over the lines. But if you're going over the same line, might as well correct it so that it's more perfect than it was before. That's why consistency is the key, but adaptation and flexibility is here. Something like that. But yeah, proceed.
yes, yes. Adaptability. What was it? Maybe it was Darwin who said it. He said that it's not the strongest, it's not the most is not the fastest, it's the most adaptable human who survives, right? But going back to stress management, relieving stress, whatnot, solitude, and I think most people have the wrong attitude to solitude because they may think that it's a dark room in the middle of the night, being alone, depressed, sad, whatever. No, no. It's just about being alone in nature, right? It's being alone and having access, having the key to open up your own mind and just letting your thoughts out. Because stress is just too many thoughts. It's just too many thoughts. Letting out all of these thoughts through meditation, through quietness. Like I said, people stop listening to all of these podcasts which don't benefit you. They're not positive. They're just mental masturbation. Get rid of all of those. Sit in solitude, meditate, reflect, journal, sleep an hour more if you're dealing with stress. Get better quality sleep. Like these habits and routines, just walk in nature. After every meal, then take a walk in nature. 10, 15 minutes. It will help. Like I took a good long walk yesterday and it helped me clear out my mind like nothing else. I worked for over 10 hours yesterday and then I thought like I'm feeling like a scum. Like I'm feeling disgusting. So I got my first meal or I broke my fast when I should, and I took a nice long walk with my dog, and then I took a nice shower, and then I got back to work. Boom, back at it. Right? It's knowing when to do stuff, and it's knowing just solitude is so incredibly powerful.
Yeah, basically the concept that you describe is more or less resetting or hitting the reset button midday so that you can, proceed doing as things as efficiently as you did. And again, the thing that you reminded me of to mention is the legacy of habits, right? So in a sense where we say that, as a man sows, so shall he reap. And the habits of today are the legacy of tomorrow. They define the path and the story of every elite performer. And this is also tying in to patience. If you plant a seed today, you don't expect there to be a tree tomorrow. You need to be patient for the fruit to ripen. And as a man sows, so shall he reap.
Absolutely, absolutely. You cannot expect to not put the work in, and you cannot expect to not do the things which you know you should do, and then be ignorant or irritated or angry when you don't get the results you want. How this all ties into habits, I want to kind of shift over more to routines, right? Routines, tell me in your experience and your own words, like what is routine and how can we implement it to be better today? What is kind of like routine? Is it sun and moon cycle? Is it the 20, 12 hour cycle? How do you go about routines?
So I have certain philosophies about routines. The one thing I already mentioned about routines, on the other hand, right, from habits are that they are organized habits or organized activities with a certain purpose, direction, sequence, and outcomes. And when it comes to routines, they truly build resilience and foster the sense of control and competence. And I see routines as something from which I operate, but I do have creativity and freedom within the routine. Um, for instance, when it comes to the morning and evening routine, those are non-negotiable. I have said I've been working on a perfect morning and evening routine based on seasonality. So based on not only seasonality when it comes to shorter days, longer days, winter, fall, yada yada yada, but also seasonality when it comes to bull runs, bear markets, accumulation phases, whether it's time for me to turn to myself and work on myself, or whether it's time for me to work on, business. And routines helped me see the things, or see the desires to fruition. Routines are something which you repeat until you get the result that you desired. Um, but routines themselves, they shape the environment around you. Uh, like the way I mean, the thing I'm trying to convey is that your habits, which are part of routines, which are part of your identity, like I can step into someone's room, and based on how their room is cleaned up and based on everything, I can already get the essence of the person. And unfortunately, it's not only that, but I can also look at how a person is groomed, and more his body and how he's dressed. So I will never judge a person based on how the clothes that he's wearing, whether they are expensive or not, because that's completely deceiving. But I can look at his nails, whether his nails have, the black crap behind them, whether he has cut his nails. I can see whether his beard is trimmed, whether his hair has been cut properly. I can smell his breath. I can look him in his eyes and see whether he has dark circles around them, because that tells me that he is not managing his health properly. I can look at him and his posture, how he holds himself, and I don't mean posture only as a figure when it comes to fat, skinny, yada yada yada, but when it comes to how he presents himself, whether he is erect and tall or whether he's slouched over, everything, like routines and habits reflect into everything. Like the thing that you said, the way that you're doing one thing, you're doing everything. So, yeah, I don't know. What's your take?
Yes, your internal reflect your external, right? Like you said, how a person lives, how clean his room is, how clean he is.
The other way around. Your your external reflects your
Yeah,
internal.
of course. But your internal also, like if your heart and if your soul is just unpure, then your external is also going to be unpure, right? But um, yeah, routines, like having a clean room, right? Having good routines about sleep quality, sleep. What's it called? I'm totally getting into this. Like sleep environment, sleep quality, etc. Being trimmed, like you said, your nails, um, being clean, like shaving, having and clothes. Like you said, clothes can be extremely deceiving. But I think if you have nice fitting clothes, does not cost any more than just normal clothes. Like I myself cut up my clothes, and then I make it look nice, and then I take some small accessories on, whatever, and I set my hair up nicely. I have extremely many curls, so that looks hopefully nice, whatever and whenever. But like you said, a man's room, a man's reflection, a man's appearance reflects him. Like you said, if you go into his room and see it's all dirty and all around, you know his life is dirty. You know his brain is dirty. You know his brain is full of ungodly thoughts that shouldn't be there. So routines tie into habits, right? Your habits form in these routines. Like I said in the start, if you want to go run, then run at the same time each week, at the same day, at the same time. That's a routine. Forming these routines, saying each morning at 5 a.m. I wake up. Each evening at 9 a.m. At 9 p.m. I go to bed. I my eating window is only between 3 and 4. I fast 20 to 23 hours a day. Um, just say that. Let's say I work 3 hours in the morning before I do anything. I have my focus block there. That's a routine. Forming this routine so your mind isn't cluttered and so your mind isn't foggy and so your mind isn't just this like wake thing that flies, roams in space, is extremely important, because you can have habits, but if those habits are not done at the right time, it may not be the same time each day, but it has to be done at the right time with consistency and intention, and then you almost have this perfect recipe for anything you want to achieve. And hey, this doesn't have to be success. This can be health. This can be having a good relationship. This can be forming a good family life. This can be knowing your investments. This can be whatever. It might be stretching, working out, running, eating. It really doesn't matter. But having the right routines and habits can form your life exponentially. And that's what I want to go into now, the compounding effect of good habits and routines. So tell us about
Perfect.
that.
Yeah, with pleasure. So, for those, and I do think that most of our listeners know what the compounding effect is, but for those who don't, it's basically the idea that the longer that you're doing something, the more exponentially it grows, right? So, a compounding effect are small positive habits. Well, no need to be small, it's just compounding over time, they lead to exponential growth, right? So the consistent habit regime builds momentum, and they make, or yeah, I mean, yeah, they make seemingly impossible goals achievable, right? So I think that the biggest power of the compounding effect, right? Because let's say, for instance, if you look at Warren Buffett's investment right curve, it's the reason why he made so much money was because he started investing at age of 10, and I think that 70% or some crazy number like that of his wealth was only made after the age of 50 or 60. I don't fucking know. I don't care. But the whole point is that when it comes to a compounding effect, the more you do something, the easier it is to do it, the easier it is to get more results out of it. And yeah, so when it comes to compounding effect, it's also in a sense where the easiest one to explain, or the easiest example to make it on, is when it comes to trading or investing. It's if you start with let's say $100, and every month you add $20 to your account, but you also earn 10% of return every month, then that means that each and every month you're going to have 30 more dollars that you had the previous month. But the next month, 10% is going to be $13, not only 10. And the more money you have, like, because the first your first dividend or your first interest was $10. But if you have if you have, let's say, $10,000 in your account, that same 10% dividend is, or the same percent interest rate, is now going to be $1,000, because the more money you have, the more money you can make when it comes to that specific thing. I'm not, by no means am I saying that you need money to make money, but I'm just saying that the bigger your reservoir, the easier it is to um, expand it. And that's because everything in this life is done through percentages. No one cares about anything else but percentages. So again, if you become 1% better every day, when you start your journey, that 1%, let's say that you have, uh, I have a system called life points, life force points. And let's say that when you start out, you have 1,000 life force points, LFP, um, and you get 1% better every day. So for a while you're going to be making very small progress, but once you get into 100,000 life force points that you're going to accumulate over 6 7 years of consistent work, then you can still get better only 1% every day, but the return, the sizing of how many life ports you're gonna gain in that 1% is gonna be, absurd. So that's what compounding means for me. Uh, Now provide your statement just so that we both cover the compounding effect because it's so important.
The compounding effect is everything we do, right? If you only had, if you could work 1 hour and then get the equivalent, like the output of 1 hour, then you're always going to be stuck here. Neville Ravikant talks about the importance of leverage, and leverage is almost the compound effect. You can kind of similarly the two, but they're not the same. Okay, so being able to put less work in and get the same or more amount out, that's a leverage. Compound is doing the same amount of work, but doing it better and doing it consistently and doing it more, and the bar, the exponential bar of output will increase rapidly. Now, every habit you form, every habit you kind of like establish should be centered around the compound effect. If you have a habit, okay, habits which are not in the compound effect may be useful, but it's small things. It can be like, of course, keeping your room clean. That's not a compounding effect thing. It can be to your mental and it can be to your external, but you can't compound the
It
effect of
absolutely
cleaning a
can
room.
be. It absolutely can be. I'm gonna, like, after you finish, I'm gonna give the example of that because that's actually a very good observation.
And then the compounding effect takes place when you do things that can be leveraged, right? The compound effect of social media, for example, you put out 100 videos. Let's just say 100 videos, and you have almost no subscribers. You have 1,000. Okay, but every video after that will get more and more traction because more and more people will tell more and more their friends about it, and you will accumulate this huge amount of subscriber count in less time and less time and less time, and it will keep going up and up and up and up and up. Like you said, Warren Buffett, the compounding effect of his investments are so extreme, and you want to operate in the um, compounding effect force of life. You don't want to be working in the incremental. Incremental is just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In compounding is 1, 1.1, 2.5, 3.9, 5, 10, 20, 50, 100. It goes up like that. And that's what you got to operate in. So compounding effect is so incredibly important. And habits in the compounding effect is more important. You got to establish habits in which you can compound in.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, when it comes to cleaning your room, I think that's the most important. I don't know if I really want to get too deep into it. I would prefer to record a whole video on that because it's so important. Because your room is the immediate environment. It's the thing that's closest to you, right? So it's your essence because you're spending most of your time in your room. And if there's anyone listening who is like in a dorm room with other people, it doesn't matter. I do not care because I live with my father who, yeah, no, that doesn't matter. But I always blamed other people for the fact that the house is dirty and the house is not clean and shit like that. But if you would if you would be the one always cleaning it, at some point people change, right? And it's the same with your dorm room buddies. If there are four of you and everyone's essence is to be a slob, which is not cleaning, who is not cleaning, then what the fuck do you expect? Do you expect that people to change? No, you change and you lead by example. The same way we are trying to do here at Anomaly Incubator, lead by example. show people what the right actions are. And once there's going to be the great enough impact, they are going to change because they will not have the ability to stay the same. Now, I understand that most people right now are saying, oh, but if I'm always going to be cleaning up, then they're just going to use me for. No, don't think of it like that. You have no clue. And I absolutely mean that genuinely with my whole heart. You have no clue what happens to your brain once you start to clean your environment. And when you're cleaning your environment, you have two options: to either listen to a podcast or to not have any input at all. And both of those have their own purpose. Now, listening to music while cleaning is not the way to go. A big no-no, big no-no. Especially listening to entertainment and shit like that. That's a waste of time. Either you're expanding your knowledge and expanding your mind while your body and your physical is being cleaned, or you are doing the mental and internal cleaning as you're doing the external. The point is, the point is that the more you clean, the cleaner it gets, and the less you need to clean to have a more clean room. Boom, like mind blown. um, but that's the compounding effect of cleaning your room. So we start with a dirty room, it gets dirty pretty quickly, but the more you develop the habit of cleaning, the less dirty the room is and the less it takes to get it back into the perfect state. And for instance, I started out with basically having corridors to my bed and to my desk. That's how dirty my room was. That was back in the beginning of high school. Like everything was lying everywhere. Everything was dirty. Everything was messy. But over the years, as my mind got supremely clean, right now my fucking room is sterile. It's like server room. There is nothing here that would be dirty. Everything is ordered. It's OCD order. Um, so yeah, but Seb, I want you to tell me also another thing. Tell me why consistency leads to mastery, right? Because mastery in any field requires practice, right? Routines ensure that that practice happens regularly. So repetition through the routine is the cornerstone of the skill of development and expertise. So how do you look at the correlation between consistency and mastery?
Yes. So what is the difference between the sushi maker who's been making sushi for 10 years and the person who's only been making sushi for 1 year? And sushi is such a delicate art that you have to find the right angles at the right time and serving it at the right time. It's quite impressive, right? And it's only through repetition and it's only through consistency where you master that. Repetition is when you try to learn a new language. Repetition and actually being out in the trenches, being out in the field, is what matters. Like I'm not our fluent language isn't English, but we just speak it all of the time, and we just learn it, and we just do it, and we just try to improve on it. And that's how we get to someday in the future be masters of it. Like right now, we're just learning it, and reiterating it, and then doing it more. But the correlation between consistency and mastery is huge. But I want to add another thing in there, which is patience. Because you can have consistency and you can have repetition and you can have good habits and etc. But without patience, you're nothing. Like I said, the sushi maker who's been doing it for 10 years is almost 1,000 times better than the one who's been doing it for 1 year. And 1 year is a long time. For 10 years, like the last 5 years of those 10 years is where you master it. It's where you go in the depths. It's where you go in the corners. Because in the first long while, you're just exploring it and you're just figuring out the basics of it and you're just figuring out how to do it well. But after you know how to do it very well, you need to go into the corners of it. You need to go into those places where you haven't been before and where many people haven't never been, right? And that's the correlation between consistency and mastery. So As wrapping it up, I think I have another good 10-15 minutes to go around this, but I think we're almost going in circles. What would you, how would you refine goals? No, sorry, I'm sorry, habits and routines. How would you crystallize it? How would you tell the people out there to start doing it today? How would you tell them to be better about it today?
Well, I already told that, so or I already discussed that it's basically create the painting in your mind, bring it to paper, and then just consistently go over the lines, reshape them, replace them, whatever, so that the painting becomes perfect. But actually, what I wanted to do, if you're limited with time, I would prefer to go deeper into our morning and evening routines. So I want both of us to provide variables, and because right up to this point we mainly discussed the formula, so let's finish it off to providing the variables. So I want you. Let's go first through your morning routine, then we'll go through my morning routine, then through your evening routine, and then through my evening routine. But we'll start with your morning routine, Seb. What do you do and why do you do it?
So let's keep it thorough. I'm just going to give you what I do, when I do it, and why I do it. I wake up right now in between 3:45 and 4:30. It's a variable between there because some days when I'm really just fatigued, I need a little more sleep, and I know my body needs a little more sleep. I wake up and I dedicate the first 1 hours and 15 minutes to self, like my morning routine. Okay. So the absolute first thing when I wake up is pray. I wake up and I pray. Like I wake up and I turn my lights on and I just pray. I pray for 10-15 minutes. And I do that to connect obviously with God, get closer with Him, but also to kind of talk with Him and kind of like reflect on what I need to do today and how I'm going to get to the point where I want to be. So I talk with myself, I talk with God, whatever, just about what I want to reach. Then I go directly into making my bed. So I have like a sofa bed thing because I had a big bed before, a 2.5 person's bed, but I thought I have no reason to have such a big bed. So I got a sofa bed. I so I make my bed and then I go directly into stretching. I make my bed to keep it nice and clean, to keep it professional, of course. Your environment shapes your internal environment. Going to stretch. I stretch around 20 to 30 minutes usually, where I stretch. I focus heavy on legs, and I focus heavy on my spinal cord, and I focus heavy on my neck and my feet, etc. So stretch my legs. I do some poses. I stretch, etc. Then I go directly into reading the Bible. I read a chapter each morning and chapter each night to get the wisdom from that. And then I go directly into setting my 10 goals. Write down my 10 goals. What do I want to get done? My goals, like what do I want to achieve in life? Why do I want to achieve it? Set my 10 goals. And then I don't meditate, but I sit in quietness in the dark because nobody's awake yet and because it's dark outside. And I just sit for usually around 10 to 15 minutes, but it's until that 1 hour and 15-minute time is done. I sit in that just that remind and I just look around and I just talk to myself. I literally just talk to myself. I'm thinking, what do I want to get done? How do I want to do it? How can I get better? And how can I do it better? And how can I shape the reality which I want to live in? And then I get straight to work. So that's my morning routine. So tell me about yours.
Yeah. And for those people who, you know, don't see the depth of his morning routine and how it shapes his personality, it's truly profound. Try to look through the actions that he's doing. Like just for an example, because I don't want to spend too much time, giving you all the sauce. Um, for instance, when he says he reads the Bible, don't think of it like he's religious. He wants to read the Bible. Being no, think about it as that creates, or that makes him a better person because he's trying to absorb the essence of the passages and things like that. So try to see through the habits and see the deeper, deeper causes that they, or deeper effects that they have. But for me personally, like I said, I have seasonalities with routines. I do change them around a lot based on what I have to accomplish. Currently, my morning routine consists of the first 20 minutes I spent just getting out of bed and making myself a tea. So when it comes to the tea, it is my morning potion. So I created, and I spent 20 minutes on it because it basically is the way I become mindful and self-aware. So it's not wasting time, but it's actually my meditation to prepare the potion. I pour my life's essence into preparing it. Then I do 10 minutes of breath work. So I do shamanic breathing, Wim Hof. I do gasping breath and alkaline breathing and breath of fire. So five different breathing methods. And I just breathe the living shit out of myself. Then I do 20 minutes or 30 minutes of warm up and stretching. So completely warming up as if I would be preparing to do a sport, even though I don't. So 20 minutes of stretching and warm up. Then I spend 20 minutes going into a ice bath or cold shower. And then I dress up. So I dress up, not down. I dress up for success. Then I do a little bit of energy manipulation and gathering just so am I'm completely full with energy for the day. And then I spend another 10 to 15 minutes planning and giving intent for the day and for the work, more importantly. And that's the simplest way to discuss or to describe my routine. Now, do tell me about your evening routine.
Let me go ahead and do just that. So my evening routine usually starts 2.5 hours before I go to bed, just because, and this is the only reason, I put on my blue blue light blockers. That's where my evening routine kind of begins. I put them on and I just keep working. Right, I just keep working. So that's my start. Around 30 minutes to an hour before I actually go to bed, which is around 8 p.m. or 8:30 p.m. I um I start to like wind down, right? So we start the wind down routine, and I usually turn off my computer and I go directly out to brush my teeth, onto the bathroom, brush my teeth, and do my thing there. Then I take my supplements. So I take vitamin C, I take other stuff as well. I take vitamin D pills, and I take salt, just Himalayan rough salt, and push it down with some water. I go in and I do another stretch. So before bed again, I do a stretch, which is also focused on the lower part, but this is more just a quick stretch to get into the evening routine kind of vibe, right? To get into that sleepy vibe, etc., etc., etc. And usually also around evening time, I turn on a more red-ish light. So I have a light bulb which can turn to different colors and etc. And I turn it to a more red vibe because that produces more melatonin for me to be able to sleep better. I then go ahead and pray again. So pray each morning, I pray each evening, pray again, and I read a chapter as well again. And then I just go ahead and go right to sleep. And my sleep, let me tell you, my sleep is incredible. Um, the amount of energy and the amount of just attention and stuff I get from my sleep is just absolutely incredible. And I usually fall asleep between 15, oh sorry, 10 to 15 minutes, and that's normal. Like taking that long to fall asleep is normal because if you just fall asleep too fast, it means you are actually over fatigued. And that, I've had that a few times myself, being over fatigued and falling asleep way too fast, like falling asleep in 2, 3, 5 minutes, right? That's you can't do that. Then that means you need more sleep. So usually my
Yeah.
mind, my evening is just more mindful and getting ready to sleep.
Absolutely amazing. Well, I do take a little bit of different approach to my evening routine. So in theory, this is not how I always start my evening routine because it again depends on the day and everything, but usually I start out with some calisthenics and going for a long run while doing a little bit of dynamic stretching while I'm running. But again, this is in theory not the start of the evening routine, even though I treat it as such. Um, then I do breath work prior to hopping into a shower, and in the evening I always do a spicy hot shower. And then I create my evening potion, the tea for the evening. Then I do stretching, as I mentioned. So I've 30 minute stretch, and it varies a little bit whether I do journaling and task tracking prior or after stretching. So I've been sort of experimenting with that. And currently, the way I'm doing it, I'm doing so after coming out of the shower and after having my evening potion ready, I usually spend about 20 minutes reflecting on the day, reflecting on the tasks I've achieved, lessons I've learned, everything. Like I journal the living shit out of my day. And then I do stretching, and I do it usually for 30 minutes. And if it feels like I want to go for longer, I go for longer. If it feels going for less, I go less. After being stretched and everything, I feel absolutely amazing, ready to sleep. So all I do is lay on the yoga mat for about 10 to 20, maybe a little bit more minutes. It varies again because I do it intuitively, not with a timer or something. And while I'm laying, I'm imagining the perfect day, living as if I wanted to, and I am more or less imagining how I'm gonna paint the tomorrow's canvas. So yeah, that's it from our variables, I think. And do you want to wrap it up? Do you have to go?
Yeah, we gotta wrap it up. Um, so I think we've been on this for already 1.5 hours, and I think people will understand just the importance of habits and routines, and how also this links into our visions and goals podcast. And I want to another time dig a little deeper into the awareness part, right? To awareness.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Um, that's big because it's almost like the cornerstone. It's almost like you got to be aware, then you got to do your habits and routines, and then you got to do your vision and goals, and then you can believe and achieve, right?
Yeah.
So let's go into that another time. But I want to thank everyone extremely much for your time, taking the
Yeah.
time out of your day to watch this and hear us rant about random stuff and just brainstorming and just being
Well,
absolute.
it's not random, to be fair. Do
Yeah,
you have
ranting.
do you have any sentences, any words of wisdom to say prior to wrapping it up? Because I also have like three things I want to say.
I would say that it's all a choice. Your life is a choice. If you
Yeah.
want to achieve something, you can. There's absolutely no reason for you not to. Like we have the social media and we have internet, and the internet gives you unbelievable many possibilities. So it's a choice, and make the right choice.
Mhm. Well, I just wanted to nail or hammer it into people's heads the concept of being the artist of your own, or being the artist painting your canvas. So the whole point of everything that we discussed today, the integrate dance of habits and routines, we are not merely participants in our reality, but we are the architects of infinite realms if we choose so, right? It's like Sabi said, it's a choice. Not you're not destined, you're not yada yada yada, you have a choice. And each disciplined action, like I said, is a brush stroke on the canvas of the multiverse, revealing a portrait of potential. By mastering the mundane, we unlock the doors to extraordinary, and limits are being redefined. Impossible becomes possible, and unimaginable is where we reside. So again,
Mm.
habits and routines are everything.